What's going on, people? Today I'm going to talk why I quit smoking ganja. So I smoked for about 6 or 7 years straight, pretty much. I probably had 2 breaks that whole time, and those were probably 6 months each stint. And each stint I had off, I didn't give enough I didn't give enough time to really have a break. So obviously that 6 months break, I had smoked again and then got hooked. So where did it all start? It started when I was bodybuilding, and we can say I was going through a bit of a rough patch, and also I was taking anabolics, so that also raised my anxiety levels up, just depending which compounds I was using. And also to help me sleep and to shut my mind off from racing thoughts, and also uh, it used to help me eat. So I used to eat 6,000 calories, and sometimes I just wouldn't be hungry. So that also helped, which, we'll get into later. So at the start, I was just purely uh, smoking green with no tobacco. And it was pretty good. It was a pretty fun time, I'm not going to lie. Definitely helped me relax, definitely helped me sleep very good, and it definitely made me eat more food, which that all those three things was really what I wanted it to do. And so it started just from the occasional uh, joint, and then that joint led to a bong, and it wasn't every day. It was just here and there, and I was doing it sneakily. I would do it in my car. I wouldn't do it inside the house, so no one would know who I was living with. And I'd eat all my food. I'd be happy. I'd be having a laugh, having the giggles, having the munchies, having deep sleep. At the start, I was getting a bit of a stone over in the morning, feeling a bit groggy, but I'd just have a pre workout the next day to feel fine at the gym. So we'll keep moving on. After this time, I went through some pretty deep stuff, and basically didn't get to see my daughter, so that made that smoking it even worse. And I moved in with a very good friend of mine who he's no longer here with us anymore. God bless his soul, rest in peace. And basically, every night we would just blaze up, smoke, have the best time ever, laugh, party on, eat all the food, have a box of Golden Gay Time ice creams after we trained, and McDonald's pizza every night. And this was also when I was trying to gain a lot of weight as well for bodybuilding. So all these things helped, and at this point in time, I was still smoking pure green, and those were probably some of the funnest times, you know, not in my life, but they'll be in my memories forever because I was with probably one of my best friends. And yeah, we shared a lot of great memories. I'm so thankful to have of them with him. Anyway, uh, moving forward, let's say it got it got deeper, and I think, as I just said, every night now I was smoking, and it was becoming a proper habit. But it wasn't too bad then because it was still fun. We were still hungry all the time, having big sleeps, and I will say the sleeps were even more hectic, and I definitely felt myself getting more lazier the next day, especially the next morning. My motivation the next morning was pretty cut flat, zilch. And yeah, training was all I was doing and a bit of online work stuff. So you can see things are slipping away a little bit. Anyway, I met my new partner, which we've been together now for like 7+ years. And she didn't smoke, and basically I corrupted her to smoke too. And I moved away from my hometown to a different place, and I was smoking there every day again, and that was pretty fun. I won't lie again. All I was doing was sleeping, doing a bit of online work stuff, eating, going to the gym, and then smoking straight after the gym. And at this stage, I no tobacco was used yet. So this is probably still a year into smoking it. And every night I was getting pizza or McDonald's or KFC literally every night. And I noticed my digestion started to get a little bit funky, and my appetite the next day wasn't the best. And yeah, things kept moving. I was gaining a good amount of weight, which was great. My stress was, not much, which was also another great thing. Having deep sleeps, but yeah, I would sleep in quite a lot, like wake up 11, 12 o'clock the next day, which we all know is not a good life, and people may say lazy, which weed definitely does make you lazy. I'm telling you right now, weed definitely makes you lazy. So all the good that you think you get from it, it does definitely make you less motivated and a bit lazier. So we'll fast forward. We moved down back to another place. We got our house together. And at this point in time, still doing it each night, and it was still pure green. And not much had changed really since. And uh, no breaks were had at all. It was just still going straight. So we're talking 2 or 3 years in, and I competed in bodybuilding, and I never stopped it then. I kept doing it every night before bed. And people that bodybuild and compete and use anabolics know that certain compounds can make you anxious, can make your sleep very crap. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, having the green and smoking it while I was competing was I think it was a plus, definitely a plus, because it enhanced my recovery, made me relaxed. Preps I'd done before without it, my sleep definitely wasn't as good. And it's funny because they say, you know, having weed doesn't get you in proper REM sleep. So who knows? But at this point in time, I never used to get a stone over. I just felt good every day. I felt energized, probably because of the anabolics, and I was having caffeine. So yeah, does weed affect bodybuilding? I had great experience with it. I'm not saying you should try it or even do it, but it worked pretty good for me. I got very lean, didn't hold any water, but I'm also known for getting pretty lean as well and really pushing the limit. And we went to America after that. I didn't stop there. America, it's legal in America for weed, as people would know. So this was even better. I was getting different strains and having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, so that's that. And we're going to fast forward a bit after. So basically 2020, now we're talking. So I started smoking in like late 2016, early 2017. Now this is 2020. Basically just before lockdown, I started putting tobacco in it, and I was getting, this buzz, this energy hit from the nicotine, and instead of being a bit, chill, I was getting energized and a bit euphoricness and euphoria, whatever you want to call it. And I was even, riding my dirt bikes and having a smoke before riding a dirt bike. And I was I was even smoking before I went to the gym. I'd have a few bongs, go to the gym, train, and I won't lie, it felt amazing, especially with a pre-workout or some caffeine. It would give you this crazy intense focus, mind muscle connection that only people who have felt this understand it. And as well, at the time, I had some good friends who I'm still very good friends with. They smoked with me as well, so it was like a boys thing. We catch up, blaze, go to the gym, eat food, kick it, have fun. And again, yeah, I'm never gonna forget these memories because they were very fun times. And I don't think the weed had caught up to me just yet. So yeah, I was smoking before the gym. Sounds crazy, but amazing. And the tobacco was in at this time too. So sometimes I would get a bit paranoid at the gym. People thinking people knew I was smoking. Really, they wouldn't. They had no idea. I'd be pretty normal, and because I'd been smoking for so long, you couldn't barely tell. So, yeah. And then let's get into more. Lockdown happened, and I started going even more. I was smoking morning to night, and I'd wake up, have a drink, smoke, put music on, you know, have a ball, eat food, and it just carried on like that every day, morning to night. I was smoking, and I was probably spending $300+ a week for smoking because I was smoking that much. I was smoking about an ounce a week, and that was bongs, not joints. My partner was also smoking at the time too, so we were in a bit of a rut which we didn't even think we were in. At this point in time too, the gyms were not open, so you know we were doing workouts at home. I'd be training, and midway through the session, I'd go smoke a bong, go back to the session, feel amazing, have the tunes on, just good vibes, we'll say, if you want to say that. And yeah, so we started doing a bit of psychedelics because what else was there to do in lockdown apart from figure your life out and figure who you are out and go deeper into who you really are. And that's a whole nother story. But when I would take acid or mushrooms and then smoke, that was a whole nother experience too. That was absolutely insane and amazing. And you know, once or twice in these trips, I had a bit of anxiety and stuff. Was it from the weed? No, because I was so used to weed. I will go back a little bit too, I should say. So, just before lockdown, uh, yeah, I started to figure out certain strains would make me feel weird and anxious more. So my brain was starting to learn it's not just weed, there's different strains, there's different feelings. You have to get stuff that works for you. And sometimes I would get stuff and just feel anxious and I'm like, why the am I doing this? Like the benefits are going and it's not even benefiting you anymore because it's just making you feel like crap. So, that in itself, why I wouldn't quit here and there is who knows. But anyway, so we'll fast forward. We decided to quit, me and my partner, and it was challenging. It was very challenging. I'm not gonna lie. You would think that it would be pretty easy, but the first time you quit it's pretty rough because you're used to using something that makes you relax and calm down. You're used to having something that apparently makes you eat, and cutting that out, it's like, if you want to call it dopamine or serotonin, whatever it is, it takes a dump and you feel pretty anxious every day. You don't get hungry. Each time I quit, I lost a good 5 to 7 kilos because just was not hungry and I would feel sick. And yeah, you know, before we quit, I should say as well, I would smoke in the morning sometime, and I would, I'd smoke and then try eat something or just a drink, and I would dry reach, and there was something going on, and I think I was just smoking too much, and my digestive system was just cactus, completely messed up from all the smoke, from probably the tobacco and the weed and the bodybuilding with all the food I was eating. Yeah, sometimes I would randomly just throw up a little bit of bile in the mornings. This would only happen in the mornings though. And then I would smoke again after I threw up. So, anyway, we're talking about when I quit. So, it would take a good two weeks or even a month to get rid of these feelings. And even sleeping without it, that was my biggest problem, I think, because I used to say I'm going to smoke for the rest of my life because it just makes me sleep, and I had sleeping problems from being 130 kilos, 125 kilos all the time. I was so heavy. I was getting sleep apnea, snoring. So I was just so dependent on it. And yeah, when I cut it out, it was hard to sleep. And I was using like melatonin, ashwagandha, L-theanine. What else? GABA. There was chamomile, passion flower. There was something else, valerian root. I'd have all these combos, and getting to sleep was probably the trickiest bit. And then I'd fall asleep, and then I'd wake up like 3 or 4 times during the night. But I would get back to sleep. And I found going for a walk with my dog at the beach the next day, fasted, not eating, going in the cold water, especially it was winter the first time I quit, so I was getting like a cold plunge before this cold plunge thing even was, popular. And I would, walk, get the endorphins going from the cold and the walk and the sun, vitamin D, and then I'd get these hectic fruit juice smoothies. And that really helped. And I basically, yeah, was starting to feel good after a month or so, and sleep was getting better. Appetite was very good. I was even hungrier than before, which sounds crazy. And yeah, we'll fast forward. So we're up to like 4 or 5 months of clean, no smoke. In the back of my mind, I was always missing these fun times I used to have, these euphoric moments, these funny moments, laughing and good sleeps. And 6 months in, I caught up with a friend, and guess what? I had a bong, and it was funny and I felt super 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 duper stoned, which I was sort of like, yeah, this doesn't feel the best, but it was very funny times what happened. So guess what? I started smoking every night again, straight back to the bong. And then we can imagine what happened after that. The nighttime smokes turned into morning smokes again, because I just remember how that felt, and we were back in that same loop. Doing it before the gym, blah blah blah. Back to that same shit cycle. And I decided to compete again, and I didn't think I was going to compete again, because all these lockdowns just made it very hard to ever get back on track. And I was probably the best I'd ever looked just before lockdown. I was like 130 kilos, not very lean, but I was pretty lean. And then the lockdown happened. I stopped training for 2 months, and I never had done that ever in my life. And I lost a good amount of tissue. And honestly, I don't ever think I got it back, because I didn't use anabolics until I wanted to compete again, which was like 20 weeks out. And I was smoking morning to night, and I hadn't smoked morning to night when I had done comps before. So this was another experience, and yeah, my physique just wasn't as how it looked back in the past. But anyway, that doesn't matter. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. So comp day, I woke up, had a bong, ate my food, competed, we did prejudging. I went in the car, had a bong, went back on stage, did my posing routine, everything stoned. I was stoned the whole day. I don't know how many other people can say that they've done a bodybuilding show and been stoned as fuck, because that was me, and I've done it. It was pretty funny, pretty relaxing, but not as focused as what I was in the past when I had competed. So I don't think I recommend that. Competing, smoking that day of the show, before you get on stage and all that stuff, I don't think that's a good idea. And anyway, yeah, so that happened, and I ended up going to the Philippines to compete. And I should mention, I had a script for smoking. So yes, it was costing me still the same amount of money, $300 a week. For prescription weed, I had the sativa during the day, indica at night. And what's interesting, like I would get this crazy energy with the sativa and have euphoricness through the whole day, and then sometimes at night I would feel a bit anxious, and I think maybe it was definitely the weed and the caffeine and the nicotine mix, because I was putting more and more tobacco in the weed as I kept progressing on. And this is probably my 5th year in, 6th year of smoking it. So started off with no tobacco, halfway through whatever, I put tobacco in it. Not sure if I said this, but yep, tobacco was getting more and more put in the mix, and which I think ruined it, because we all know nicotine can give you head spins and make you a bit anxious even more. And yeah, so at night time I'd have the indica, and there was more tobacco in it, like I just said, and I'm like, oh, why am I feeling anxious? Oh, I'll just have another one, and I'd have another one, and I'll have another one. And each day I was probably smoking 10 or 15 bongs a day. And it started weighing on my conscience, going, why am I doing this? Why, if it's not doing what it's meant to be, why am I doing this? It's just an addiction. And I couldn't, weigh up. So I quit. I think one time I had this is what happened. So my sister was pregnant at the time, and I'd smoked, and yeah, I moved back into my parents' house for like 8 months, whatever it was. And I had a smoke in the garage, and I went back inside, probably 12 a.m., 1 a.m., started to freak out. Heart rate was racing, probably from the strain and too much tobacco. And I had to go into my sister's room and say, hey, can you come out to the lounge room and just chill with me, because my heart rate's fine. She's like, do you want me to call an ambulance? I said, no, it'll pass. It's just bad anxiety, bad cone, bad time. But me had experience with psychedelics and stuff. Things don't last forever. Your mood will change, your thoughts will change. You just need to calm down, breathe. Everything will be right. So after this experience, I quit again. So this is the second time I quit. And guess what? It was easier this time, because I just did the same thing. Would walk the dog first thing in the morning, fasted for 16 hours, get some sun, go for a swim, walk for an hour, be very healthy again, cut out all junk food. I'd again lose 5 to 7 kilos the first week, fully detoxing. And I should say, with all this, I'd be coughing up phlegm for 4 to 8 weeks after. And there was like particles of either tobacco or weed in my phlegm every time I'd quit for 4 to 8 weeks. Like you could see all the little particles. Sounds gross, but I'm just telling you the raw truth of, what was going on, my full experience with weed. This is here that I'm telling you, and I want people to hear it, and maybe before they even smoke it, or maybe they want to quit smoking, that they can listen to this. And back when I was bodybuilding, there was like not many people that used to smoke and bodybuild. I was one of the rare ones, and I think back in the day I heard some pro bodybuilders used to do it. But yeah, I was like the weird person to be smoking it. I felt like I clocked the game. I figured out how to sleep good and eat good on it and whatever else. But yeah, so sleep was getting good. You know, a week or two in this time, I'd experienced quitting before, so I'm like, oh, this is easier this time. It was easier, so I'm like, I got this. You know, I'm not gonna smoke again because I had such a bad time. Sure enough, again, 6 months, basically the same point, I would, you know, reminisce all the good times and the fun times, and oh, you know, maybe I could just have a smoke once in a blue moon and it'll be okay. And that's what I did. I smoked again and had another good time. That turned into smoking every night again. That turned into smoking morning to night again, having 10 plus cones every day. And then, you know, I think I got a bit off track. Sorry. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just keeping it raw. Before I quit, when I said I competed in the Philippines, I had the prescription weed. And I bought it on the plane to the Philippines. I didn't give a and people said, no, you can't smoke weed in the Philippines. You can get in a lot of trouble if you get caught. But I was like, no, I've got a script, bro. It's sweet. So yeah, I had a bong in my suitcase, not suitcase, you know, carry-on luggage, and yeah, smoking in the hotel. When it said no smoking in the hotel, I'd go into the bathroom and blow it into the fan because there was no windows in that hotel. So that's how dependent I was on it. Then I went to Thailand, and at the time, Thailand had just made smoking weed legal, so I was smoking flat stick, and I competed in the Philippines, I competed in Thailand, and I was just smoking hardcore, like full on. It was so cheap, all the strains. And funny story, I actually bought the bong to the airport to fly back home to Australia. And at the airport, I ripped out the bong before going in, and I ripped like 2 or 3 big cones to fall asleep on the plane. So no F's given, no fucks given, really. So yeah, anyway, there's that story. I'm going back to quitting, and I've just started again now, and we're smoking morning to night again, once again. Same old shit, different smell, and I think my brain, you know, it might have been another year again. I was smoking for, and my brain was like, "Why are you doing this again? You don't feel the same as like you used to a few years ago on it." And it was really weighing up on my conscience. You know, I'm not sure if the mushrooms and stuff had made me just be more self-aware and more conscious of what are you doing, or maybe I was just getting older and wiser, and I was, you know, 30 years old at this time. And so I started to cut back. I'm like, no, I'm not going to smoke in the mornings anymore. I'm not going to smoke during the day. I'm just going to do it right before bed. So every day I would, you know, I'd be flying. I'd have so much energy. I wouldn't have the same hunger. But then after gym, you know, that was my reward. I'd have like three bongs, four bongs, whatever. I'd eat, chill, go to sleep. And when I would smoke, yeah, that feeling was just, why are you doing this? I was getting anxious, heart rate would fly. Of course, tobacco was in the mix too, and yeah, it really was just weighing up. And my grandpa died, and my uncle lives in another country, and he smoked as well. So I knew he was going to come over, and I hadn't seen him in like 15 years, so it's a pretty big thing. You know, grandpa just died, and he was coming over and he was going to stay with us, so I knew we're probably going to be smoking, so there's no point trying to quit if he's coming over, and we're just going to be having fun for a week or two and catching up. And I don't regret that, because, you know, having fun with your uncle and smoking weed with your uncle and having fun and just, yeah, having good times. And I said to myself, when he leaves, I'm going to quit. Just after he quit, I mean, after he left back home to the different country, my partner was, she smoked, and she had a really bad time, like full anxious, everything. So she quit. So now I'm like, whoa, I'm just smoking on my own again. I really need to quit very soon. And I think like 3 days later, I quit cold turkey. Every time I quit, she would quit too. So that's what I should say. Every time, yeah, I quit, she would quit too. Every time I'd start smoking again, she'd start smoking again. We were just bad influences on one another. So, yeah, she quit, and then I quit a few days later, and it wasn't as hard as it first was quitting. The first time you quit, I think, is the hardest. And sleep was probably only bad for like a few nights. And I think because I had already tapered down my bongs from going morning just to night, only just having night ones, that it didn't affect me that much quitting. So I had all my sleep stuff, and my sleep was getting better, and my body weight was down, so I wasn't snoring, didn't have any sleep apnea. And yeah, it was just clean cut this time, and she wasn't coming back. And you know, it's been like 2.5 years almost now since we stopped. She hasn't had one bit of weed. I've probably had weed 6 or 7 times. And I think after the 6 month period, if you can go a year without smoking it, you're in the clear. That's my opinion. I think 6 month mark is still, you're going to fall back into that trap. Or maybe it's just a mindset, whatever it is. But I think you need a good year off it to be fully sort of turned off by it. I was turned off by it. And yeah, I think it was after a year mark, I had a bong, and it just made me super anxious, super just dull, numb, quiet. And I was like, nah, this isn't cool. A few months go by, smoked a bong again, just one bong. Had a pretty funny time, like pretty hilarious time with my mates. And then didn't feel the need to do it again because I felt pretty tired and rat shit the next day. So it's been 2.5 years, and I have probably smoked 6 or 7 times. I've had probably a joint or two, and maybe 4 or 5 bongs in this time. And I'm going to tell you, probably 2 or 3 of the times I had a really funny time. One was on a boat with our friends, and, you know, it was hilarious. Another time was, yeah, with all our mates again, and it was funny, super funny. So 2 or 3 times, yeah, it was really funny, and the rest were, I was just like, why did you just do this? And I just sort of pazzed out, freaked out, went quiet, and wasn't a fan. So I think it's been almost 6 months again now since I've had a hit of it. And I can tell you, you know, 2.5 years in of not smoking daily or weekly or monthly, it does not bother me smoking anymore. If people smoke around me, cool, but I don't want it unless there's like a real special occasion where you might go to a music festival or something, and, you know, whatever. But even just to do it with friends, it's not me anymore. I've changed, and, you know, I hope you can watch this video and listen to all my stories and understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you just really ask yourself, why are you doing it? How do you feel when you're doing it? Because most people I speak to, they will say the same thing, like, oh yeah, it's not doing what it used to do for me anymore. And, you know, they've been smoking for a fair few years. So it's a trap. It makes you lazy. It puts your brain in a different state. Like, me and my partner used to have arguments more because our you know, dopamine, serotonin levels were up and down all the time, and our what do you call it? Our moods were always, yeah, up and down, whether we'd be high, stoned, or sober, and we'd be cranky because we hadn't had a smoke, and just, we were different people, and we're completely different now. We've stopped, and it just feels awesome and so good to not rely on something, even to sleep. Like, my sleep's really good now. I might wake up once a night or twice a night, and I feel way better than I used to. I don't eat as much food. I don't compete in bodybuilding anymore. I just do TRT. I don't do anabolics or cycles. And, you know, do I regret smoking? No, because I had such fun times and memorable times, I can't even speak, doing it, that it's all in my forever memories. And yeah, I will never forget the fun times I had. But those fun times slowly crept up to not being fun anymore, and just thinking, why am I doing this? I don't feel right. And it getting the better of me. But I'm lucky and thankful enough that my conscience was like, no, you don't need this anymore. It's not you. You're evolving. You're not doing bodybuilding anymore. There's no excuses to have it. You're fine. The traumas you had in your life, you don't need to rely on that shit. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever be addicted ever again. Ever. I may have the odd joint maybe once a year or twice a year. I don't know. Maybe not even that. But I have basically forever quit smoking weed. And I'm trying to tell you guys that it feels amazing not to be, you know, just so dependent on a substance that that makes you feel good or sleep good or stress or less anxiety. Because I'm telling you right now, the more you smoke, the more anxious you're going to get through the years. And I think anyone can tell you this, and you can't ignore it because, yeah. So that's my story with weed. Thank you for listening. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Please. I'm going to try to do more videos and really get out there. I've got a good camera. I'm about to hook up and get these SD cards going. And filming for me is it's weird. I feel one of those people like, oh, you're just filming yourself and whatnot. I like to be authentic and just to be able to talk normal, like there was no camera in the room and I'm just talking to my friends, and this is what I've tried to do with you guys. So thank you all for listening. Appreciate you. Give me a comment down below if you're trying to quit or if you're quitting. Maybe I can help you and give you some tips or things to do to help quit, or whatever. But thank you once again. Peace out.